So how do we differentiate from what can and can't be a score? Because I don't think we can. I think it's all an interpretation. I think anything. But it can. Anything.
Depends the context and the content. Like you can't do it with any other. Like if you get a usual love poem, you know, how would you be able to use that as a score?
But if you create a score of, let's saying, every third letter, you have to sound.
That would be a good idea.
But does that make the poem a score?
No, you're
does that
creating
make
a score.
A score.
You're creating a score
in order to use on other things.
Yeah, so the poem isn't a score. And then the artwork itself wouldn't even be the poem or the score, it would be the people jumping.
Yeah.
How do we represent the score appropriately?
So, like, when you were doing that then, did you set yourself a set of rules as how to follow?
So going on, yeah. So like, if I was doing like a thicker line,
yeah,
it was because of like how you went for it. So thick started from thinner going to thicker because.
So it's the intention, or was it the progression?
Then intensity.
Okay.
The intensity of how you progressed into that moment. So me seeing that, I interpreted it that way, but it came kind of spontaneous because I started with using the same kind of thickness the whole way, and then I went into patterns like even this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you were doing this scattered thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I show that? And I was just like, I'm just gonna do like a
broken. Yeah.
Played with your like your fingers.
Yeah.
Like that. And that put a memory inside of my head, so I drew the memory of that. So I don't know what we're going to talk about that when we're talking about memories of.
That's something we've not really spoke about.
Because I did droplets, because the way you did it reminded me of a drop falling into the water.
Okay.
Because you were just so delicate about it. Intense colours for the dramatic, if it was like a dramatic part, but then I don't know if I was influenced by the song that we were listening to.
Yeah, okay, so try with that music. So you tend to follow thematics of it quite a lot. So thematics being the theme of what it is rather than, so it being like the...
Do I follow themes?
Yeah. So for example, the dramatise of it. So
I dramatised that.
So by you saying that it was dramatic, it wasn't what the movement was doing, but the theme of the movement, which that's not necessarily a problem.
No, yeah.
But is that's something to discuss again? Then that's again what is providing the score from me. Is it the individual movement? Or is it the thing as a whole?
So, with that we just did, you were my score.
But how? Because I wasn't thinking of you. Well, I was, in the fact that when you were not looking, or I could see you were struggling, I either slowed down or repeated the movements. But I didn't think, how can I move to be a score? So maybe that's something I need to look into. Should I have an intention of what I want the outcome to be before I move?
If you put an intention before moving, then it's not as improvised as you would want it to. But I think the improvisation part would save us, because then it's like, you're my score, but then what's your score, kind of thing. But being improvised, you don't need a score.
Yeah.
To be my score. Where in space and time you're relating, related or still relating?
So like, one of the colours meant the pace was slow.
Okay.
Okay, so like when you look at the thing, it's as if like I'm trying to get a way into seeing how you approach things. So you were using a large surface, you were talking about using your feet as a pulling method, but when you did that you were using a larger surface area of your body, and the other time when you were being pulled you were using a thinner surface area of your body on the floor, and the spots you were saying like your hands and your feet, but it was always the balls of your feet and the palm of your hands, so these were round surface areas, so it was as if you were painting the image with your body, and that's how you came about the approach that you did. So you tended to use parts of your body when doing the image that you would use when painting the image for yourself. If you think that could be an accurate way of describing it.
I think maybe I kind of still like tend to relate how I would go about it with a canvas, and how I would like recreate that big line, and how I think my body can redo that instead of reinterpreting it in a completely different way. I tend to like stick to what is familiar, and how that is similar from the image to my head.
And that's why there's been that constant pattern from each one. And it's only on the third one that we've realised when you've added more difference that they're the things that stayed the same. And it's always to do with surface area. And it's like surface area in contact with things such as the floor, which is where the painting comes in mind. So I'm going to give it approach as if I was painting it on this next one.
Oh yeah.
How do we use our tools effectively?
Towards the end I used the pastel like sideways like that.
Okay.
So that like this meant that if I wanted to show that fast move, it's not evident. So like playing around with the same colour in that sense. But it was just too difficult to keep up, and I didn't think like I was being authentically following you. I did have to use free pastels at one point because you were doing a slow move with your upper body but with your lower body as well.
Yeah.
So, and then I was mixing the dotted line with the green, and it was fine, but made me think about, I don't think it's a clever way to divide upper body and lower body sometimes. Sometimes yes, but because you have a style of dance where you're using all of your limbs at the same time, like you're not
but
like
sometimes you are just using your legs, and sometimes you are, but sometimes using all of it.
Yeah, so when you use all of it, it's like an overload for me to then do.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of either I have to learn what to use to represent what you're doing. It's a score for people to like look at the space that they are usually in a different mindset. That's what a score does. It's giving the direction and the intention of being aware of the possibility of this part, but it's already existed. But you're making it re-exist. You had to select what you were focusing on?
No, because like I had the freedom to choose why or how I drew the line, so I wasn't like, it's like I said, I'd either draw the shape being made or so on. because sometimes like this was the shape of the arms and this was the legs at different points, but then these were the shapes that were drawn in the space by the body of the dancer, and then these were the shapes that the dancer literally drew, and then these were the pathways in the space at some points as well.
I like the freedom in making it. I feel like it makes like a map. Like it's like I'm exploring where you can go, and then you're relating to that as well.